Hello, I'm Adrian Ramirez, and I'm excited to partner with the graduate school at UTSA for the Career Builder sessions. A little bit about me. I've been working in career development since 2008. At present, I work as the Director of Career Development and College Relations for the University Career Center at the University of Texas at San Antonio. My background involves advising and career development program management experience. I started in the nonprofit sector and transitioned after a few years into higher education. And I also have a background in employer outreach and communications, which is what we're talking about today. We're discussing cover letters. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'd like to provide an overview of what we're going to discuss throughout this session, and also talk a little bit about how to earn a badge for completing this session successfully. So we're going to start by covering cover letter basics. That goes into a cover letter and strategy around how to develop a cover letter, bearing in mind that you want to develop this document for a specific job that interests you and for which you are applying. We'll also talk about how to format a cover letter, how to set up the document, and what goes into structuring the format of a cover letter. We're going to talk about the suggested content that goes into writing a cover letter, and we'll break that down section by section. And we're also going to keep in mind that as we're developing this cover letter in each of the content areas, we're developing it with a specific job application and a position description in mind. And then we'll cover some final details, some common questions that I've been asked over the course of my career advising work in terms of how cover letters should be used and when is appropriate and how to best optimize a cover letter. And then we'll talk through the earning criteria, as I mentioned, about how you can earn this badge for attending the session. All right, so let's start with basics. A common question that I'm asked and that I've been asked over the course of my advising career: Adrian, what is a cover letter? What is this document? I'm looking at a job description and I'm seeing that I'm required to submit both a resume, which I have, or maybe I'm working on, but a cover letter too. What is this and what do I need to do to develop this? In short, a cover letter is a document that you will sometimes, and more often than not, submit with a resume, and the documents are supposed to both reflect and promote your experience, your relevant qualifications that align specifically with a job that interests you and for which you are applying. So it's this written explanation of your most relevant and highlighted skills and qualifications and experience. So it's a detailed explanation of your interest in the job as well. So this cover letter, which again is submitted along with your resume when you apply for a job, this is your chance to, in more detail, explain your interest in a specific position, what about the job interests you, what about the work interests you, and to connect your interest to a specific company too. So as you're looking for work, as you're looking for employment out in the marketplace, and if you find a position that interests you, not only that job, in the cover letter, you can also explain what it is about, where that job is done, and for whom. Whether it's employer A, employer B, or employer C, every company is a little bit different. So here's your chance to talk about your interest in a specific company along with the job. Another question that I'm asked, and that I have been asked over the course of my advising career: why do I need to write one? Right? I have a resume. I've spent a lot of time developing this resume. Shouldn't this be enough? You know, I've spent so much time developing and tailoring my resume. If you attended the session that we're also offering on how to tailor your resume, my colleague Jeff Patton spent a lot of time in detail guiding you through how to create an impactful resume to highlight your skills and qualifications, and that can take some time to develop. But a cover letter too. And so again, I'm asked the question on occasion: why should I write, or why do I need to write a cover letter? And again, in addition to a resume, the answer to that question would be, you want to take any opportunity you can to highlight your unique skills and qualifications and experience. And you want to be able to start a conversation with your target employer. Sometimes it's understood that that conversation might actually begin when you're invited to interview for a job. But in reality, the conversation can start during the first phase of the application process when you're promoting yourself, promoting your personal brand and your experience and qualifications and interests to your target employer through your application materials. That in many ways is the first point of contact with your target company and the target job. That's when a hiring manager is going to get a sense of who you are and how you might be aligned based on your experience and education with what they're looking to hire for they're going to see those qualifications and experiences on paper. So again, this is your first chance to, in more detail, using your voice to highlight your unique experience and skills. This is also a chance to, and the reason why you would want to write a cover letter is so that you can distinguish your application from others who might be applying for the same job. It's a competitive marketplace and it's becoming more competitive. And so you want to take any opportunity to show how you're uniquely qualified and to stand out from the rest of the applicant pool. And so writing a cover letter and submitting a cover letter in addition to a resume is one more way to do that, because not everybody will take the time that you're going to craft a tailored cover letter to submit along with a resume for a job application. And again, you want to establish a rapport and you want to establish a conversation with your target company. And so again, the cover letter is a way for the company that you're looking at and looking to apply to work for to get a sense of your voice, to get a sense of who you are and why you are interested and care about the job that you're applying for. Continuing with some basics on cover letters. So before beginning to write your cover letter, there are a few things you need to do so that you're in the best position possible to start your draft. First and foremost, you want to start with a job in mind. And again, I'll get to this question later, but just in brief, sometimes I get the question, is it okay just to have one cover letter that I use for every job application, kind of like a business card? And the recommendation that I make, the recommendation that my colleagues make, career development professionals around the world will always make is that you want to draft a tailored and unique cover letter per every application and per every employer for sure. So this begins by identifying a job that interests you and determining how you might best draft a cover letter to coincide with the resume that you're going to submit as part of your application. So again, and this is going to be part of the exercise that you do to earn a badge for this session. So you want to do some research using some of the tools available to you, maybe a career search website like Indeed.com or Work in Texas, whatever else you might be using to look for a job in an area of interest to you. Find a job that interests you and look at that position description, and we're going to go through that in a second. Review the target job that you want to apply for, and then as you're reviewing that position description, you want to focus in on some key areas of the text and the qualifications that are described and make up that position description. And as you're reviewing that position description, that can give you some ideas in terms of how to create certain content for your cover letter. You also want to review your resume, again, because these documents are submitted simultaneously when you apply for a job. So again, you can pull examples and you can pull content from your resume, and that can help you get the process started in drafting material for your cover letter. So review the job that interests you and that you're about to apply for. And then as you're preparing to draft your cover letter, review your resume. So you are looking again at your qualifications, your experience, and you're making connections between your experience and the job description. And again, that experience then can be explained in more detail and in a more focused way in the cover letter that again is going to complement the resume that you submit. All right, and again, we're talking about the job description. So again, you're going to find a position description that interests you. And as you're looking at a position description, there are going to be some key content areas that usually make up whatever position that you might look at, or whatever content areas you might want to focus on as you're figuring out if the positions are right for you or if the work is right for you. So again, as you're looking at a sample position description, you're going to notice some key areas that are pretty consistent across the board. And those usually are a section that's devoted to explaining to the potential applicant a little bit about the company, right? So a little bit about who they are and what the company does, and maybe even when they were founded, details like that. Usually what follows that section is a list of core responsibilities associated with the job that interests you, right? So a list of the things that you would be doing if you're hired to do that work for that company. That's usually followed by a list of required qualifications. So again, as companies are trying to hire for a specific role, they're going to make it very clear to the applicant pool what's required and the kind of candidate they're looking for based on experience and education. Sometimes, and more often than not, the job description will also show a second section of qualifications called preferred qualifications. And again, these are also experiences that a company might be looking for to fill a specific role, but aren't necessarily absolutely crucial when they're considering who they want to hire. That you might look at that section more so as sort of an ideal list of what the company would want if they're able to hire somebody with that experience. And then usually finishing out a position description will be the application instructions that the company will provide to the applicant pool. And so let's spend some time unpacking each of these core areas, because again, part of the craft of developing a really strong and really compelling cover letter is being able to look at a position description, look at your resume, make those connections between the experiences that align, and then discussing those in a compelling way in the cover letter. So again, you need both the position that interests you and you need the resume, and those two documents are going to help inform the way that you write your cover letter. All right, so thinking about a job description, if you're looking for work right now, chances are you've already found or maybe have bookmarked a few positions that you're considering applying for. Maybe you've bookmarked a few company pages that interest you, companies that you're following, perhaps even in the San Antonio area that your goal is to work for one day or maybe in the near future, right? And so as you're continuing to look for jobs, and eventually you're going to land on a position that interests you. And so let's say that you're looking at a position right now, and we're looking through some of those core areas that you're going to evaluate as you're beginning to draft your cover letter. Let's start with the About Us. And this is one of the most important sections if it is included in the position description, because again, the company's trying to tell you and tell the applicant pool, this is who we are, these are our values, this is what we care about, this is how long we've been in the community, this is when we were founded, this is the work that we do and that we're proud of. And then to that end, this is who we want to hire, right? And so when a company's trying to hire, and if they provide this information, what they were trying to do is look for do overall, maybe specifically to the work that they're advertising through the position description, but also in general through their overall company goals, right? So pay close attention to the section and think about ways that you can highlight a connection point between your experience or what you're trying to do and the company and what they're trying to do. So say, for example, you're wanting to work in the nonprofit sector, maybe in the San Antonio area or elsewhere, and maybe you have some volunteer experience or community impact experience on your resume that aligns with what a nonprofit is wanting to hire for. Let's say that you found a position that a nonprofit organization in the San Antonio area is trying to fill here in the near future, and you have some of that experience in your background. There's going to be that alignment, and you can see that alignment perhaps closely in the About Us section, right? So that's your first indicator of how you can pull some examples from your experience, maybe the experience that's highlighted on your resume, and discuss that experience in more of a narrative way in your cover letter, right? So again, the About Us section of the position description is going to cover things like core values, company or organization culture, mission, their priorities, right? So maybe the organization is telling you through their position description what they hope to accomplish over the next few months or the next year. Maybe they're looking to make a break into a certain impact area if they're a nonprofit organization. So they're giving you a sense of what their goals are as an organization in the near future. And if you want to help support those goals as a professional who's looking to connect or reconnect to that industry, those are things that you can include to showcase your alignment in your cover letter and supported by your experience as well. All right, and then moving down the page, if you're looking at a position description or as you begin reviewing position descriptions, you're going to see a list of core responsibilities that are associated with the position that interests you. So again, these responsibilities are going to be the primary tasks, primary projects that are going to make up the role for which you are applying. And so it's very, very important to review those. And as you are reviewing those project responsibilities, primary tasks, to check for keywords, check for words that might be industry specific. Check for words that are going to be representative of the industry that interests you, or maybe representative of certain skills that organization or company is going to look to hire for and look for in their those skills, if you have several of those skills, and if those skills again are on your resume and you'll show evidence of, you can also elaborate on how you have acquired and how you've leveraged those skills in your cover letter. So evaluate and look through the job responsibilities very, very carefully and check for some of those keywords that again are industry specific, skill specific, also again value specific too, because again the organization is going to tell you what they care about and who they're looking to hire for. And if you see that kind of alignment between what your background looks like, what your goals are, and what the company is trying to do or what the organization is trying to accomplish, you can highlight that language and include some of that language in your cover letter to reinforce that connection. You'll also take a look at the required qualifications in the position description. Again, these are going to be the essential skills and experience that an employer is going to need as they're looking to fill a particular position or employment opportunity. So again, these might be the fundamental or essential or the most required skills, experience, education that are absolutely required and requisite for the candidates that they're going to look to interview and or to hire for this role. So again, pay close attention to this section, because again, you want to reinforce to the organization that you meet those qualifications, that you have the essential skills and experience that they are looking for, and you want to highlight those wherever you have a chance in the cover letter, especially if one of those skills or experiences is one of the prime examples that you want to include, and we'll discuss that later on when we talk about the way to set up the document. So again, those are examples that you want to highlight in the content of the cover letter. Skills might be an example, let's say you're applying for a position that requires bilingual or multilingual ability, and if the employer is specific about the language that might be required or the languages that might be required, and if you have that essential skill, absolutely, one, you want to highlight that wherever you can on your resume, but you might also be able to, in more detail, highlight and showcase how you've leveraged that essential skill to the benefit of maybe past employers or past organizations, and provide detailed examples of how that skill has been used in the cover letter. So again, a chance for you to highlight some of those essential skills and qualifications. Similarly, you'll see on occasion in a position description, preferred qualifications. Sometimes this is labeled ideal qualifications or something comparable. But again, these are skills that may not necessarily be absolutely essential to the hiring needs of the organization, but skills that the employer would want to see in their top candidate that they're going to call in for an interview and potentially make an offer to and hire. And so again, these might be more unique skills that might be more industry specific and would help you in this role really excel and move projects or goals forward for the organization or for your target employer. And so again, if you're looking through this section too, this might be an area where if you're able to show a connection point between experiences or skills or education that you have that fit into this section, this might be one more way to set yourself apart from the applicant pool. Because in many ways, many of the essential skills that you might see in a position description, many of your competing applicants are also going to have. They may not always have, though, some of those unique or preferred qualifications that you have. So pay close attention to this section, and if you see in the preferred qualification section of a position description, a skill or experience or education in your background that will set you apart, highlight that, one on your resume, absolutely, but highlight that in as much detail as you can and maybe use an example of that as one of the examples you highlight in the cover letter. And then again, usually rounding out the position description is the to apply, do this, the instructions that an employer might give to an applicant. And again, this is very, very important and can easily be overlooked. And it's common, especially with common and automated systems these days, if you've set up a profile with an applicant system or with an organization and you've already uploaded a resume, it can be easy to overlook these instructions that might be unique to each position and automate your application process, which we do not always recommend because, again, you want to create tailored materials for each application, but two, if the organization is being very specific that they want to see a cover letter in addition to a resume, do not overlook that and be sure to submit a tailored cover letter along with your resume. The employer might also indicate in this section that you have the option to submit a cover letter in addition to a resume and that it may not be required. If they're explicit about that, our recommendation is that you take the opportunity to draft and submit a cover letter as well. The reason being that, again, if applicants are seeing in this section that it's optional and not required to submit a cover letter, not everyone would take an opportunity to do that. But if you decide to make that investment in time and energy to create that optional application material and submit it along with your resume, you will stand out. And that's one more way to make your application more unique. So pay close attention to this section and make sure you're following step by step and explicitly the application requirements for the job and made clear by the company. Right, as you begin to write your cover letters, so again, you've been looking at this position description that you found perhaps online. You have your resume, or maybe you're just finishing your resume, and so you have both documents or bits of information in front of you. Again, start drafting the copy. We'll get into the mechanics and the format in a second. But you want to write your cover letter with a target company in mind. Again, so ideally, you want to start from scratch and you want to think about the company. Maybe you've already done, and we would recommend doing this. You've done some research on the company. You've taken a look at their organization or company site, aside from the position description. So you learn more about what they're doing and what their goals are. You're writing a letter to them. Again, as you apply for this position, you are writing and trying to put forth an argument as to why you are the best and most uniquely qualified applicant for this role, and what your vision is for this role too, right? So write with this target company in mind, again, because you want to pull them in, you want to pique their interest, and you want to encourage them to follow up with you and perhaps even offer you a chance to interview for the role. In addition to doing that though, in addition to writing with the company in mind, you want to be very clear about responding to the position description. So again, when you're writing this document, you want to be as focused and clear as possible and show them that you've thoroughly evaluated the position description and that you are writing this cover letter with that position in mind, right? And be specific about how your experience, how your background, how your professional goals align with doing that job and then doing that job for that organization. And then last but certainly not least, it's really important to be yourself too. Again, one of the great things about developing and submitting a cover letter, it's a chance for you to show your authentic voice and for you to stand out among other, that connection or that potential connection with your reader, with your audience, the hiring manager, and with that organization. Which is one more reason we recommend, again, there are many different templates available online for crafting a cover letter, but again, starting from scratch, building the document from scratch gives you that much more space and additional opportunities to be yourself and to showcase your personal brand. Again, as you continue writing your cover letter, it's important just to continue moving forward. I know that throughout my advising career, on occasion, people will have asked me, Adrian, I'm just not sure how to move forward. I have writer's block. I don't know how to start. I maybe have one sentence or two sentences for the cover letter. I don't know where to go from here. Just like with anything else, I think it's important just to continue the momentum. Your first draft may not be perfect, and in all likelihood it will not be, and that's okay because it's going to take some redrafts and the document is going to take some perfecting and revisions. So just keep moving forward and putting text on the page because you can always come back and edit the document later on. And we would encourage you to do so and to have others read through it and check it for clarity, check it for typos, things like that. But it's important just to continue writing and to produce a draft of the document that you can go back at a later point and review and continue to refine. But as you're refining this document, like I mentioned before, you want to focus on being yourself, but also being to the point and being focused. Again, this is going to be ordinarily a shorter document. Your resume might be more than a page. The cover letter is usually going to be a page or less than a page. And so you're focusing on highlighting the quality content that's going to showcase and highlight your experience and education and other qualities that are going to align with your target job and target employer. So do not feel like you have to produce more than a page of content as your final cover letter. You might do so the first draft and then pare down and edit the document before you submit it. But again, it's about quality and not quantity. So focus on highlighting just that key content that you want to submit to get the point across that you are the ideal applicant for this job. Okay, we're talking about format. Like I mentioned before, ordinarily a cover letter is going to be less than 1 page in length. Sometimes, and most commonly, you'll see a cover letter that's around 2/3 of a page in length. But again, if you exceed 2/3 of a page and your cover letter is just about a page, that's common as well. You want the format of your cover letter to mirror the content of your resume. So you want the font that you use and the margins that you use for your resume to also be what you use for the cover letter, because you want both documents to match and be a complementary set of materials you use to apply. Like I mentioned before, you want to keep your language concise and focused too. As you're setting up the document, again, you have the option of choosing different borders, and sometimes this can impact how much content you can include on the page. We recommend using a border of, say, between 1 inch or 1/2 inch minimum around the page. Also, you can choose a font as you begin developing the document. We recommend fonts like Garamond or Calibri or Arial or Times New Roman, the more common fonts that you might see in a professional document. Also, font size is really important. You want to make sure that your audience can read the document. So nothing below 11-point font, but certainly something between maybe 11-point and 12-point font maximum. In general, a cover letter can be broken down into 3 key areas, 3 key content sections. So an introduction, supporting examples, and a closing section. And let's unpack that. So you want to begin your cover letter with your introduction. You want this to be a chance to introduce yourself, to identify the position for which you are applying. And if you were referred to the position by somebody within your network who might also be connected to that organization, it's great. And you should highlight, with their permission, of course, you should highlight that referral or that recommendation. And all of that can be done in the introductory section. This first section, which is usually the first paragraph of your cover letter, again, is meant to establish a connection with your reader, with your target audience. It gives you a chance to highlight in a very broad way why you believe that you're qualified for the role. You might also mention how you found out about the job. Let's say you attend a community job fair hosted here in San Antonio and you talk to a recruiter for a specific organization. They encourage you to apply online. You might reference that you attended that event to highlight the fact that you were going out of your way to make a connection with that organization. So you can put that in the introductory section as well. The middle section of your cover letter is usually about 1 or 2 different paragraphs where you highlight, like I mentioned before, some of those key examples or key content areas from your resume that align with the position for which you are applying. So you want to take this opportunity in 1 or 2 paragraphs to highlight relevant qualifications or experience you have that shows your reader that you are who they want to hire and you have the experience and skills they need. You can pull examples of experience from your professional work history, education, community involvement, whatever the case may be that you have highlighted on your resume. And then again, you want to connect those examples to the position description. Keep your examples focused. So again, you're writing in a focused way. You don't want to speak too broadly. You want to make a direct connection between the experience you're highlighting and the examples you're choosing, and say some of the experience that you've evaluated in the position description. And to really, to make this cover letter as strong as possible, Show some demonstrated results. You can talk about the examples in a way to suggest a skill that you have or have developed, and provide an example from maybe your work history or from your educational background, and how you moved forward to creating some sort of a tangible result or impacted your employer or your community in some sort of a positive way. So again, show some of those gains, show some of those results in the cover letter too. And then the final section, usually the closing paragraph of the cover letter, is where you thank your reader for their time, and you want to create what we call some sort of call to action. You want to mention to them that you would welcome the chance to sit down and talk about your interest in the position over the course of an interview. You want to reinforce your contact information if possible, and again, encourage the reader to call you or contact you for an interview. In general, what you see now is the basic structure of a cover letter. Again, it is a letter, so you would ordinarily format this letter using your contact information at the top of the page, almost like you would for your resume. Again, you're going to include the date that you submit the cover letter along with your application. And also, don't forget to include the contact information and the company information before you launch into some of those content sections. Also, it's important to address a specific person whenever you can. So if in the job description, you're directed to submit your application materials to a specific recruiter or hiring manager at the organization where you'd like to work, you can address them here, dear so-and-so, and address the letter to them directly. And whenever you're in a position to do that, that's always the best strategy. And as you can see on the page, again, cover letter broken down into 3-4 key content areas, an introductory paragraph, a supporting or a couple of supporting examples, followed by a closing paragraph. All right, as we're finishing this session, some frequently asked questions. Adrian, can I use can I use one cover letter for all applications? You know, I think that's a common application strategy. We always recommend, though, in career development, that you take time to tailor and rewrite your cover letter per application. The structure of your cover letter may not vary that much, but you absolutely want to take time to tailor the content to align with each individual position description. Should I bring a cover letter to a job fair? If you're going to be networking or talking to a lot of different organizations, it may not make sense to have a template cover letter to submit along with your resume. So ordinarily, a resume should suffice to take to job fair, not necessarily a cover letter, because again, that's a tailored document that you will submit afterwards. And then again, do I need to write a cover letter? Our recommendation is that whenever you have a chance to, yes, create a strong cover letter and submit that along with your resume. Final tips and recommendations: check for clarity, proofread the document, tailor the cover letter, write a new one for each application. Be yourself and let the cover letter be an example of your individual voice, so avoid templates. And also, again, it must be error-free. I can't reinforce that point enough. You want to check that document for typos, make sure the content is perfect. All right, we're at the close of our session, so to earn a badge for the cover letter session, and thank you, by the way, for attending the session. I'd also recommend attending the resume session too if you have a chance. But to earn a badge for this session, what you'll need to do is select a position online that interests you, get the URL or the web page for that job, and then craft, using the recommendations that we've made in this presentation, craft a sample cover letter with that position in mind. And what you'll do is submit both the link to that position along with the draft of the cover letter online through the Career in Focus page using the instructions provided online. But thank you again. Best of luck with the job search, and thank you for attending the session.